Hey folks, Jessica here, and a little sticky. The M3 weapons have just come out, the new M3 weapons. People have been asking my opinions on these, so I thought I'd do a quick first impressions video. Stress on the first impressions part. My opinions might very well change based on how the meta settles, but for now I'll let you know what I think of them initially. These, if you didn't know, are from the M3 raids, so Shiva, Avatar, Metatron, Grimnir, Europa, and Alexiel. The drop rate's probably gonna be awful. Let's just be real about that. In addition to just being a low drop rate, these are going on bosses that already have 3 potential weapon drops on them. So, like, yeah, it's gonna be a big yikes when you're farming these. Speaking of big yikes, it's 6,000 prestige pendants to trade for one of these. Gonna assume these don't come fully uncapped. You can trade 2 a month. So I guess 24,000 prestige pendants over 2 months to fully uncap one of these if you're just doing the pendant route. Yeah, I mean, if it makes you feel better, I don't think any of these are going to be like super game changing for an element to the point where you'd run like 6 of them or something. I think most of these give you some more options for the respective elements, and also more options if you need like HP for something like meeting the Lucilius HL entry trigger breakpoint. So let's see, this staff. Fire has a lot of staffs. It's weird because Fire doesn't have a ton of staff characters. It's got like Colossus Kane, Fire's Prometheus, Nilacantha, I think is how you say this. Nilacantha? Yeah, that looks right. But yes, neither here nor there. Charge attack, double attack, triple attack. That's okay. Charge attack. I mean, it's not exciting, but it's not garbage. It's serviceable. So big stamina, small HP. That's all right. So here's the thing: stamina's great, right? But you really want to see 2 offensive stats on a weapon with stamina because, like, compared to not a fair comparison, but like Eden is like big attack, medium stamina. And the reason why that's good is because stamina turns off really fast when you start taking damage. So like I covered this in detail actually in my enmity video, but stamina, you get 0% stamina bonus, not at 1 HP. It's actually at below 25% HP, you get 0 stamina bonus. And like you get in some fights, you get below 25% HP pretty quick. So that's an issue. And then HP, like as a stat, especially small HP, is super unexciting. Here, let me here's an example. Let's see. I gotta type. See. Last Storm Harp. So this is Grimnir, the Raid's harp. This thing, I think, is a little bit better. This is Stamina Verity, so it's stamina. It's only medium stamina, but it's big crit. Crit can be an awkward stat because it only works on elemental advantage, and like you kind of want to have characters that work with it, and you want to hit certain. Like there's a lot that goes in a crit. It's not as simple as adding attack, but it's still 2 offensive stats, which is more what you want to see. And yeah, the thing with HP is, okay, so here's the rundown on HP. A lot of people like HP because it makes them feel more comfortable. Comfort isn't really a useful metric in terms of effectiveness. That might seem like a very hardline stance to take, but the thing with HP is you need HP in the fights that you need HP, and then not really anywhere else. So example, Lucilius HL. When you enter the Lucilius HL fight, Lucilius has a join trigger that hits everyone in your party for 30 million plain damage. You can't avoid it. So you need 30,000 plain damage. 30 million. Hits everyone for 30,000 plain damage. So you need 30,001 HP. Or else, like, anybody who doesn't have that is dead. And you might as well, like, why do you even join the fight if you don't have 30,001 on everybody? So, like, really, like, for that fight, you do want some HP weapons, but you don't want, like, 60,000 HP. That's not super useful. You really want, like, something like 30,001, sure, but, like, you want, like, 35,000 or something, like something to give you a little bit of a margin, but you don't need a super overload on it. HP is a stat where you want just enough. So you don't want to see it on like a weapon you put a ton of in your grid. It's usually like you try and cherry pick a few HP weapons to get to that threshold, and then you stop. So that's the thing with HP, because outside a fight like that has a hard requirement on HP, you don't really want it. You want 2 offensive stats because you want to do more damage. Like, you know, if you run like a stamina light team that has 10,000 HP, sure, you're fine. You're fine. That's fine. If you take some damage, then like you can heal yourself. It's fine. It would be very unusual for you to like actually want a ton of HP on a team in most situations. So moving on from that, Spirit of Mana, great video game. It's been like 2 decades since I've played that game. This is the Europa's Fist. This is actually a pretty good weapon. This is a very good enmity weapon for water, which is funny because I just did my enmity video. Stig's like, I play water enmity. So I just did my my enmity video, and I talked about how water doesn't have a ton of enmity weapons. In fact, I think the only other Magna water enmity weapon is like Winter's Frost Nettle, the dagger from Rise of the Beast. So this is a nice option if you want to run water enmity. I think the issue you're going to run into with water enmity is water doesn't have a ton of really good enmity enabling characters. And that's always going to be like the biggest factor in terms of whether or not you want to run enmity on an element. Like on the surface, this weapon's actually a really good Magna enmity weapon. I would say it's better than like a Celeste Claw or a Teemit Bolt, because like it's medium enmity, but it's also attack and crit instead of just attack, which is pretty nice. Issue is, again, without a lot of enablers, you're going to be using this in fights where you know you'll take some damage in order to enable it. Otherwise, you're not going to be using this because the enemy's not going to be turning on. So I would say for like doing harder fights, you could totally use this. I mean, we'll see. Like if someone tries to use something like this for soloing Lucilius, that might be valid. I'm not sure. But it's going to be useful in certain fights. I don't think you're going to see a ton of water enmity players, though, just because it's not a great element right now in terms of availability of characters for it. Chocolate Alexial Sword. This looks literally like Alexial's other sword, except for it's made out of chocolate, is what it looks like. Stiggy, do you want to go down? Stiggy wants to climb down, or not. Stiggy just wanted to change position. Oh no, Stiggy! Oh, there he goes. Okay, so hang on a second. Okay, Stig booped my mic, so that's what that cut was about. Now, what were we talking? All right, Choco Alexial's sword. I cannot get over the fact this looks like Alexial's other sword, but made out of chocolate. Also, it's a saber, and the other sword's a katana, which is interesting. I guess words don't have any meaning beside games these days. Let's see. Attack up and defense up on the charge attack, that's fine. It's not super exciting, but it's fine, serviceable. Trium and Enmity, interesting. Okay, so Trium, I've talked about this a few times in other videos, but Trium's one of those skills that has really fallen off in recent years. There was a time, if you believe it, in the before time, where Merglace, Grand Catalina's sword, which is Trium Massive Attack, I think, was the best Grand weapon. It's been a long time since then. But back in those days, there weren't as many good sources of multi-attack rate up on characters. So characters these days tend to have very strong multi-attack rate buffs, and increasingly common these days are characters that have guaranteed triple attack and multi-attack. So in elements where you have the high density of those characters, Trium's kind of not a great skill to have. In fact, if you're Dark, especially you're Dark, Dark has Predator, which is she's guaranteed to triple attack. Ray, any character that you use her 2 on, that you switch her out for, is guaranteed to triple attack. 6 has a passive that literally says he can't single attack, he can only multi-attack. So in Dark, if you're running a lot of those characters, Trium's a dead skill, essentially, because it's not doing anything. You're already always multi-attacking. Earth isn't as much that way. Like, Earth's just not like that to the same degree. It's got characters like Holiday Narmaya, who can give herself guaranteed triple quite often. and it's got really strong multi-attack rate buffers Mahira and Kane, Chicken and Kane. But it doesn't have like a super high density of guaranteed triple attackers like Dark does, so Trium has more of a place in Earth. And then Enmity, so I always start to say X element doesn't work that well in Enmity because it doesn't have like a really strong Enmity enabler. And in retrospect, what I'm really saying there is I'm saying Earth doesn't have a Summer Zoe, which is not a fair thing to say. So I think taking a step back, like taking a little bit of a step back from that, Enmity works fine in Earth because Earth has Air, who's punch yourself in the face dirt boy, which he's a pretty strong character, and Sarasa, who drops herself to 1 HP, so, like on her ground zero. So like two pretty strong Earth enemy characters. So this, like, enemy works fine in Earth. Earth also has a ton of enemy weapons. So this has potential. However, I don't think this is a weapon you run more than one, maybe two of. I don't like you would have to make the argument to run one, and I really don't think you run two of these. Just because Earth does have multi-attack rate buffers, so like running one or two of these, like you run enough to get some like as much multi-attack rate as you need from Trium, and then the enemy is a little bit of an added bonus. But you're certainly not going to run like a grid full of these things. That's not a great idea. So this thing's like got its place. You probably want to farm like maybe one of these. Moving on. This thing. Grimnir's butt plug. What is this thing? It's a staff? It's a butt plug. Okay, so this does not look like a staff to me. It looks like, well, a butt plug, but no, it looks like this looks like a spear. I mean, it's long, it's got a pointy end. I can even see this being a dagger because it's got like a handle and like a stabby end, but like what it really is a butt plug. But okay, Grimnir staff. Let's see. What does this do? Charge attack is stacking attack rate up, dodge rate buff. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, yikes. Okay, these skills. So, small attack, small HP, medium double attack rate, critical hit rate. You hate to see it. Grimnir's butt plug's bad. I'm just gonna go. I don't even think I'm going on a limb by saying that. Grimnir's butt plug's real bad. So here's the thing. It's small attack. You really don't want to see it small attack if there's not, like, if it's small attack stamina or small attack enmity, okay, sure. But small attack, these other things, like, that's not great. If this were big attack, then okay, it'd be okay. But small attack and HP, I've already talked about why HP is really as a selling point. And then crit rate, like, works on element fine, but you know, not as spicy as some other potential offensive skills. But double attack rate, like, that's I would literally rather have any other attack skill than double attack rate, like any of them. Double attack rate is the least exciting skill you could potentially have on a weapon, and the reason why is it is so easy to max out your double attack through buffs, through like various methods. The only people who would be excited about double attack rate are, like, you know, very new players that like need any kind of multi attack they can get because they don't have like the depth of a character roster to get multi attack rate buff. But this thing's from the Grimnir raid, so it's not for super new characters, so that's awkward. Yeah, so small attack skill, marginal skill, fucking terrible skill, and then like okay attack skill. That's this thing. Grimnir's, I mean, it'll be good for Grimnir. Like, Grimnir's butt plug will be good for Grimnir fans, I guess. Man, my friend's face just flashed through my head when I said that. You know who you are. Moving on. I just realized we didn't talk about the Water Fist, Spirit of Mana's charge attack. Let's see. Supplemental damage to all allies, boost a normal attack damage cap. Depending on what the numbers are, do they have numbers? They don't have numbers. depending on what the numbers are, this could be a potentially pretty useful charge attack. That's got some potential to it. Oh, speaking of things that have potential, this thing, Pillar of Flame, the light spear? Yeah, it's a spear. Okay, charge attack's super unexciting. It is 50% charge bar, tanking counter, who cares? But it's medium stamina, big crits. If you remember, that's kind of exactly what I wanted from Nalacantha. Nalacantha being the fire staff, which was big stamina, small HP. This is 2 offensive stats. Stamina's great in light. Light's the stamina element because it's got so many healers, characters that can cut damage. There's various ways of keeping you in stamina range. So stamina's great in light. And then crit. Crit is good. Like, crit's fine. It's a little awkward in light for a couple reasons. The first one is light, as far as I can remember, doesn't have a really good crit character, a character that really enables crit, so like a water keg. I think it's got Light Silva, who like minimally but benefits a crit team in light. And then the other reason why crit's a little awkward in light is light and dark for newer players tend to be elements that are that newer player's primary element initially. And the reason for that is because they work well as a farm everything element for a newer player. So if you don't realize, light and dark are neutral damage against every element except for each other. By contrast, if you were running like a water team and you faced an earth boss, you'd be doing like half damage and taking double damage. Not ideal. That's not a problem for light and dark because they're neutral against everything except for each other. So like it works well for a farm everything team. Now, if you run a bunch of crit weapons in your farm everything grid, it's not really a farm everything grid anymore because crit's kind of a dead skill against off element fights. That said, if you're fighting on element, this weapon is pretty good against a dark boss. This weapon's decent. In fact, a friend of mine posted a chart. Actually, I'm doing silver open. Yeah, I do. This chart, which kind of maps out the trajectory of the various builds. So let me pull open the comment here. Okay, so for context, blue is a sword build. So Cosmos Sword, Luminara swords, etc. With Luminara summon and a Lucifer summon. Red is a 3 spear build with a Luminara summon and a Lucifer summon. Yellow is the Cosmos Sword build again with 2 Luminara summons, and then green is the spear build with 2 Luminara summons. So the ones we care about, I guess, are the blue and red. So if you notice, the spear build's actually more damage than the Cosmos Sword build, roughly above 80%. However, it starts falling off to the Cosmos Sword build increasingly as you go below 80%. And that makes sense because it's stamina. But that's interesting to note, because the spear build is legitimately more damage in this band up here. Which you can keep your team in through heals or at the beginning of a fight or in an easier fight where the boss is CC'd. So that's a thing. I think between the two, I would still lean more towards the sword build for a couple reasons. The main one being, look at all the places you can farm a sword. Look at the fact that it's only like 2,500 renown pendants, and the fact that it's existed for like 4 years. So you probably already have a bunch of these things. Like, it's not a new thing to farm. But additionally, it's small attack, and then HP. I know I trashed on HP, but if this thing already has a legitimate like advantage as a damaging weapon for a good chunk of fights, because like below 80% is pretty common in a lot of fights, then the HP is just a flat bonus, so that kind of pushes it over. Though, if Light were to get a character that was a very good crit character, I think that might push the Pillar of Flame over into being like the meta Light Magna choice. So, food for thought. It's moving on. Let's see, we just got the dark one? Yeah. Okay, the dark weapon. Let's see. Okay, charge attack first. This thing is stacking defense and refresh. Stacking defense and refresh is actually pretty good considering what you want to do with this, because this is just like an Alacantha. It is a stamina weapon. Big stamina, medium HP. Now, you already know what I'm going to say. I've said this a million times, but Dark is the enmity element. Most of its characters are aligned with enmity. It's got, enmity is where it really, really shines. That said, it does have some stamina characters, I want to say Halloween Lady Grey, Grand Fairy, Valentine's Clarice. There's a few characters that work as stamina enablers, characters that keep your HP high in Dark. That's real. For Primal, Dark already has stamina option in Dark Fallen Sword. Now, the stamina Dark build, really, there's only a few fights that you can make a case for using it in over the enmity build, I would say. The enmity build is just going to be your go-to for general content, for farming, for racing. But, you can make a case to use Stamina Dark. This weapon gives Magna a similar option for Stamina Dark if that's what you want to run. It's still not what Dark's super good at. Tons of elements, all other elements can do stamina better, in my opinion, than Dark can, but it is an option here. This is one of those weapons that give you an option you didn't really have before, and that's nice to see. I'm not mad at that. That's fine. I'm not gonna be farming these things because, if I want to run stamina, I'll probably run some other element. But it's a fine weapon. So that's all the weapons. I guess one more thing we can look at. I don't talk about this a lot, but this site is Kamigame. This site has a feature where they throw up a bunch of builds that are maximized for ideal damage. So if you want to see what is the best potential build you could run, this is a very useful place to go. And I think they have already updated this for the new weapon. So let's just yank some open. Let's look at fire real fast. So this will give you a example grid. So let's see where they place them. So this is the enmity fire grid. So obviously it's not going to be in there. Another enmity fire grid. And yeah, they do use the two of the Nalakanthas in their staff their staff grid. And yeah, Highlander fire, they use it. So yeah, if you go by this, you could legitimately use a couple of these things in a bunch of different fire setups and see benefit from it. Let's pull back. Water, this one, the water enmity one. So obviously you're not going to see it in really anything but the enmity setup. They generally don't do stamina-ty. I hate that phrase, where you mix stamina and enmity for the most part, because that doesn't maximize your results. There's an argument for it for more consistent damage, but if you want to maximize, you don't do that. So yes, their enmity setup. So Winter's Frost Nettle, 3 of the fists. Yeah. This is you could do an enmity water team if you wanted. That's gonna be a hell of a lot of farming to get 3 of these things, though. And that's really the only place they use it. What else they have? Earth. Choco Alexio Sword. No Choco Alexio Sword. Yeah. No Choco Alexio Sword there. Do they use any chocolate Alexio Swords? Huh. Don't actually think any of their grids, suggested grids, have a chocolate Alexio Sword. Let me just double check that. Yeah, they're not a fan of the chocolate Alexio Sword, and that makes sense. I think they listed as an option. Yeah, they listed as an option here. Yeah, Trium. It's hard to make a case for Trium, especially you're making a general grid like this, because it really depends on what characters you're running. Let's see. Wind Magna. What was the one weapon? Oh, right, the butt plug. I would be surprised if they use any butt plugs. Wait, was that butt plug? No. Oh yeah, that's a hard pass on the wind butt plug. The Grimner's butt plug. There's none. What else do we have here? Ah, the spear. Right. So yes, they do recommend a spear slash sword build, and then the traditional sword build. Traditional sword build. This is a really nice site, by the way. If you want to, it's Kamigame. So KAMIGAME.jp. I'll link it in the comments in the description. But this is a really nice site if you just want to get an idea of what like ideal grids are. Like these are mathematically proven out. Like that's what they're coming at these from. Like I've checked their numbers. That like their math is sound as to why they suggest these grids. Stamina dark. Let's see. That's enmity dark. Ah, so yes, they do have a stamina dark build here using the guns. The guns, I believe, are attack crit, so a stamina crit dark build. So yeah, I mean, you want to try something new, you could do that. And yes, here's their stamina characters. So like Grand Fairy, Halloween Lady Grey, and 6, I guess. Yeah, interesting. So right, that's my thoughts on the weapons. I will potential the light weapon's the best one of them. The dark one's more options. The earth one depends on your characters. If like you're really struggling to get your multi attack up, then like you could get an earth weapon, an earth sword or two. The butt plug's garbage. Like don't bother with Grimir's butt plug. Fist, you know, if you got the characters and the desire to run enemy water, this lets you legitimately build enemy water. And the staff, you know, you can use a couple of them in a lot of your fire magnet grids. So that's how they fall. The wind weapon's bad, earth weapon's okay. The water one is an option. The dark one's an option. The fire one's generally going to be useful for you, and the light one's going to generally be useful for you. So let me know how your farming's going. I'm very curious to see what those drop rates are, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.